Are you sure you want to buy raw land in North Idaho? Sure, North Idaho is beautiful, and wouldn't you love to have a big piece of it all to yourself in the middle of nowhere? Well, before you come running to me with a big bag of cash to buy some land here in North Idaho, we first must look at some important truths about buying land in North Idaho. I'm Bryan Ingham with Ingham Realty. Welcome to another episode of Enjoy Living in North Idaho, where I talk about eating, sleeping, drinking, buying real estate, everything in North Idaho. So let's jump right in and look at these harsh realities of buying raw land in North Idaho. Who knows, maybe I'll be able to save you some money or maybe a massive headache in the future. Like any good, knowledgeable real estate person, the first thing to consider is location, 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 right? You want to be away from the city, but you want to be close to amenities and maybe close to a hospital. And is this property next to future development, or are they going to develop it like right next to your border? Something to consider here in North Idaho: is it going to be a south-facing lot or north-facing? If it's south-facing, you're going to get a lot of sun year-round. If it's north-facing, it could be pretty dark a big part of the year. Now you've figured out where you want to be. Is there anything available? And then the next thing is price. How much does it cost? Will they only take cash? Will they take financing? Believe it or not, there are some land lenders out there that will lend on bare land. Now, if you're looking around online for some land on my website or someone else's website, and you see two pieces of land and one is way cheaper than the other, yet they look similar, there's probably a good reason for that, and you want to do some investigation. Or reach out to me to find out why. Another thing to consider is topography. Is it on flat land or is it on sloped land? And how big is the slope? And can you even build? Is there a place to put a building pad? Is the land a big meadow or is it full of trees? And just so you know, if you have over 6 acres, you can get a timber exemption and save some money on your taxes. Or maybe you want a waterfront property. And is this property in a flood zone? So one thing to think about is the Spokane River that runs here through North Idaho, through Coeur d'Alene and Post Falls. The north side of the river is fine, but you get on the south side of the river, there's a lot of flood zones. And when we get a lot of snow, a lot of rain, that can overflow. People have to sandbag. Maybe you have a creek running through your property, which is nice to have. But do you have the water rights to it? Another thing to think about is zoning. Is it zoned agricultural? Is it zoned residential? Can you even build on this property? And then what's the adjacent zoning? Is it industrial? Are they going to have something that puts a bunch of smoke in your backyard and goes right into your house? Does the property have CC&Rs, which is covenant conditions and restrictions, which regulates the use of your property? You may want to do and build whatever you want on your property, but you certainly don't want your neighbor to do whatever they want and build whatever they want on their property that encroaches upon you. Another thing to consider is accessibility. How are you going to get to the property? Yeah, you want to buy some land in the middle of nowhere. How are you going to get to it, right? Are there roads that go to the property? And if not, can you get an easement to get to the property, or is there already an easement on it? Or is there an easement on your property for someone to get to their property? Regarding easements, there's also utility easements where you need part of your neighbor's property for your utilities, or they get to use part of your property for their utilities. A lot of these properties start with public roads, but then they get to private roads, which are shared by all the neighbors. And then once you get to your property, a long driveway, that could cost thousands of dollars. The next thing to know when buying a property is, has the survey been done? Do we know where the lot lines are? A lot of times you can walk the property and they'll have some pins or flags in the corner so you can find out where the lot goes. If not, then you need to pay to have a survey done, which could cost a couple $1,000s. Now, one of the most important things for buying raw land is utilities. Does it have utilities? Where are the utilities at? How much does it cost to bring them in? First thing you need is power. Well, how far is power? Well, a good thing is there's a lot of power lines running all throughout North Idaho, so it's usually not too far away, but you got to call the electric company to see what it'll cost to bring it in, depending on how far it is away. Maybe you want solar power, you want to be totally off the grid, but one thing to consider is you may not be able to get a loan from a lender. Next thing to consider is water. You're probably not going to get city water if you're out in the country buying bare land. So you're going to have to drill for a well. And the cost for that can be $15,000 all the way up to $75,000, depending on how deep they have to drill. Sometimes they find water right away, sometimes they don't. And the average cost being about $30,000. Also, what is the wait time to put in a well? Well, it could take 0 to 24 months, depending on how backed up the people are. These are things you need to plan ahead for if you want to buy land and you want to build. And what is the gallons per minute on the well? Old wells could have 3 to 5 gallons per minute, which was okay, but now you better have at least 5 or you're not even going to pass an inspection. But to have a good well, you want to have more than that. Now, some areas have access to public or private water systems, but the problem is a lot of times they have moratoriums on when the water will be available. So you buy land and you have to wait who knows how many years before they'll let you use their water. And most likely you're not going to have sewer nearby, so you'll have to put in a septic system, which isn't too much trouble. You just got to pay the money. Average cost is about $8,000. If you're not in the city, then forget about natural gas. You'll have to have propane if you want any type of gas. So you found the perfect lot, got all the utilities you need, everything is good to go. Now you want to build. Well, let's talk about building costs. But first, if you guys are thinking about moving to North Idaho, wanting to buy some land or house or whatever you're looking for, please give me a call, shoot me a text or email. Be glad to answer any questions you have, show you around the area. I've been helping people buy and sell real estate for over 20 years now, and I would just love to be your guide. So you have your land, you can't just start building whatever you want on that property. Yes, we're in America, yes, we're free, but for the protection of you and others, there are permits that are needed. Now, some people do just build whatever they want and they get in trouble and they get fined, and you don't want to go through that mess. So just so you know though, the average permit cost to build a house is about $40,000. Also, you're going to need plans on what you're going to build, and so you may need to hire an architect for that. With all of these costs involved, you can get a construction loan. But the thing is, are you going to manage the building of the project? If not, you'll have to hire someone to do so. And if you are going to manage the project, they're not going to give you a loan unless you know what you're doing. With all of these costs adding up, you do not want to be like the one in Luke 14:28 that says, "For which one of you, when he wants to build a tower, does not first sit down and calculate the cost to see if he has enough to complete it?" Another thing to consider is cost versus resale. You may spend a bunch of money on your dream house, but then you go to sell it and it's worth less than it cost you to build. Now you're kind of stuck. Well, what if you don't like where you live now? You know, you tried Idaho, you don't like it. Some people don't like it. It could happen. The last thing to consider when buying raw land is maintenance. there's a lot of tree debris that you get on properties in North Idaho. Needles, twigs, all kinds of stuff. And it could just be a breeding ground for fire. So you want to have some fire clearance. You want to clean up your yard. And who's going to do that? Are you going to do that? You're going to hire someone? Also, road maintenance. Who's going to maintain the roads to your property? Like I said, a lot of these roads are private. Are you going to have neighbors maintain them? Are you going to maintain them? What about when it snows? Are you going to plow them? Is your neighbor going to plow them? These roads, they get tore up after a while, so you might have to bring in somebody to grade the road, maybe put some gravel down, maybe put some oil down so it's not all dusty. And the more land and more acres you have, the more you're going to have to maintain. So if you want to have a lot of land around you, quick pro tip is buy some land that butts up against government land, BLM land, Bureau of Land Management, where you have miles and miles and acres of land that you can just play on because it's public land and you don't have to maintain it. So after all these considerations, do you still want to buy some raw, bare land? If so, I'd be glad to help you. If you're scared off a little bit, there are some other options. There's a lot of developers out there that are developing lots, 1 acre, 5 acre parcels, and they already got utilities set up for you. Or you could go the easiest route and then just buy a lot that already has a house on it. Then you don't have to worry about building, construction costs, dealing with the city, the county, any of that. So there you go. If you guys like this video, please hit the like and subscribe button. That way you'll be notified of all my videos that come out. I'm giving new videos every week showcasing the whole area of North Idaho, helping you make an informed decision on whether you want to move up here. All right, I'll see you on the next video. Bye.